Hi there, friends. So today I wanted to talk you through some of the basics so that you can get started taking notes in Procreate on your iPad and you can ditch your notebook.
Hi, I'm Hayley, Chief Doodler at Thoughts Drawn Out. I'm all about getting creativity working so I can help you to make your mark.
So this is something quite a few of you have asked me about. You're keen on the idea of visual note-taking. You don't like the idea of having to carry a bunch of pens around with you, but you also like the idea of colorful, beautiful notes. So you're very drawn to the idea of taking digital notes, having them on one device so that all you're carrying around with you is your device and your stylus. It can all be there. You've got the full color palette. And that's absolutely one of the benefits of doing it digitally, is having all of that at your disposal. Now, I will say, though, we are going to focus in on doing visual note-taking. And my advice to you would be to keep up your practice old school as well. Still come back to pen on paper from time to time. The reason I say this is because it helps keep you speedy and confident in your pen strokes and your decisions. Because what you will find when you're taking digital notes is there's an undo button. So you can do something and undo it, or you can draw it and then you can pick it up and you can move it around. All great, but when you become so reliant on those things, you lose your ability to do it quickly. And you'll kind of trust that I can come back and fix that up later. I'll come back through and do that later. You don't have any of those options when you do things pen on paper, which means you have to make more definite decisions and you have to do them quickly. And every pen stroke that goes down, you have to commit to it and you have to do it with confidence. So I think that even when you want to play in the digital space, it's still a really good idea to balance that with some pen on paper practice for that reason, to just kind of keep that, what I like to call pen confidence happening, that just get it down there, bold, confident stroke, go with it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the materials that you will need. Now, obviously, we're talking specifically iPads here. That doesn't mean you can't use other types of tablets, but iPad is what I use and it's what I can kind of teach you because it's what I know. But even when it comes to that, there are multiple different iPads to choose from. So to share with you today, I actually don't have the standard normal size iPad that most people have. I think it's about the 10-inch size. What I do have is an iPad mini and the iPad Pro in the largest size. And I find having this combo is what works for me. I use them in slightly different ways and for different purposes. So with this big iPad, which I kind of consider my working tool. So this is the one that I will be live scribing in. If I come to a conference or a workshop or an event and I live scribe for you digitally, I'll be doing that in here. It has way more screen real estate to work on, which makes the process of doing a large capture much simpler. On the more negative side, though, when you are live note-taking for a long time, especially if you're sharing it up onto a screen, it churns through the battery really fast. So I'm constantly looking for power cords when I'm doing that. But you get the benefit of the big screen real estate, so you're playing that off. It's also a lot heavier to carry around with you. It's not a small thing and it's not that light. So if this is your carry it around with you all the time, it's it is a little bit more cumbersome than perhaps your normal notebook. On the flip side, this little one is small, it's light, it's highly portable, but you are compromising on the screen real estate when it comes to drawing. But this is my kind of my personal use iPad, if you like. So I try to keep the big one. I try to look after it really well, and I try to like keep it on my desk, keep it in its case, not faff about with it as much, so that it's good and it's for work. Whereas this one I will take everywhere because I almost use it like a portable sketchbook. I read books in it in the Kindle app. I will stream TV shows on it. I will carry it around in my handbag. Because then I kind of have a sketch pad wherever I go, and it's kind of light, portable, and it's my everything every day. So if I were to be back in a 9-to-5 office kind of job, I think this is what I would want to use as my everyday go-to notepad for note-taking, because of how light and portable it is. And I know I can use it in the way that I need to use it to take notes. So if you have the one in the middle that I don't have, it might tick all of the above boxes and it might work fine for you. Just wanted to kind of share my thinking in terms of what devices I have. Now, the other main tool that you will need is a stylus for drawing and writing. So Apple Pencil is absolutely the way to go. And it will just kind of pair perfectly with your device. And this is all you need, rather than a big pencil case full of all of these colors. It's all right here. So the third piece of the puzzle is you need to have the right app on your iPad. And we're going to open that up shortly, and I'm going to start to show you through some basics. But what you are looking for in terms of if you want to learn using the software that I use an app called Procreate. So I put the emphasis on the pro. So Procreate, and I will show you the logo here, so you know what I am talking about. So you will need to purchase this software, install it on your iPad, and then you'll be good to go. So if you want to do that now, then we can do the next couple of steps together. Okay, so now that I have my iPad screen shared here with you, I'm going to talk you through the basics of getting started, taking visual notes in Procreate on your iPad. So you'll see down the bottom here, this black square with the colorful little swirly pen stroke. That there is Procreate. And when we open it up, we see all of my files happening in there. So first thing I'll say is that you can keep each file separate, or you will see in some of these places I have stacks of files. So this is good if you are note-taking for work, because you can group a whole bunch of different separate documents into a stack. And when you open it up, there will be all of the pieces of that stack, which might be great if you want to keep a set of project files together, or all topics related to each other. They might be all of your coaching conversations, for example. You might want to put them all into a stack. To do that, you just literally pick up one file, hold it over the other, the same way you would put apps into a folder. But for the purpose of today, we are just going to start with a blank page. So you will notice in the top right-hand corner, there is the plus icon. This will give you options in terms of what size you want to choose. So depending on how you are going to use your notes, you might have a go-to here. You might always just use an A4 page. You might use widescreen dimensions so that your notes could go simply into PowerPoint and things like that. Or if you want to use them as part of video, then you'll want that widescreen format. So to do that, if you have a 1920 by 1080, that is a great kind of go-to file size to have. So a couple of things here. Once you have your document open, so you've picked the size and dimensions of the document, you've opened it up, you have a blank canvas. So a couple of things is you can pinch and zoom and wiggle around using your fingers pinched on the screen. First thing I'm going to show you is this little spanner in the top left-hand menu. So if you come in there, you have Add, Canvas, Share, Video, Preferences, and Help along the top. So for now, we're just going to click on Canvas, and we're going to turn on the drawing guide. And that brings up that grid on the page. So especially when you are getting started, it's much easier if you have that drawing guide turned on. Now, underneath, you'll see the option to edit the drawing guide. So what I like to do is turn the opacity right down and make the grid size even smaller than what you see, just so that it's not overpowering. I'm going to press done on that. It's just subtle. It's just in the background enough to help me keep a consistent line and a consistent font size, that sort of thing. So that's tip number one, is turn your grid on in the background. Now, the next thing you need, similarly, when you are visual note-taking on paper, I always tell you to have your outliner, your black pen that's your go-to for your text, your picture outlines. It's the one that's getting most of the content down. And I say the same thing here, especially when you are getting started, is have your go-to pen, know around about what size to put it at that's going to work with your standard canvas size, and start with black. Do your text and your outlines in black. You can get fancier and experiment later, but this is a great way to start in terms of getting you to switch over from paper into here. So to change brushes, you want to select this paintbrush tool here. Mine looks blue up that top right-hand side, and you'll see a whole bunch in there. Now, my menu has some extra ones in there because there are brush sets that I have purchased, which is something you can go and do. But to get you started, if you come under inking, you'll see this one here, and technical pen. So this is my go-to getting writing down onto the page pen. To change your color, you're going to select this. Mine's currently purple, but this dot up in the corner, that is your color option. Now you'll see there are different views. So you can have disc, classic, harmony, value, and palette along the bottom there. So I'll go through all of those in more detail in further videos. But for this one, we're just going to go on to disc, which gives you a nice color wheel and makes it nice and simple to just come down, touch your stylus onto that middle circle, onto the color that's going to work for you. And then if you touch that dot again, that disappears, and that's now the color you have selected. Coming over here onto the left-hand side, you'll see this slider. This top one here is about your pen size, and the bottom one is about opacity. So we're going to leave that at 100 for now. We'll play around with that later. And the first thing you're going to do is find the size that works for your pen, for your handwriting. So you can just play around with this for a bit, change it up or down, draw a squiggle, write some letters, see if that works. And you'll see there is a little back arrow down under those two sliders so that you can just undo whatever you just did, you can undo it. So you can play around with that. So if you find your size that works, then you can start with your writing. So the other thing I'm going to say, I don't want to jam too much into the very first video that tackles this, but I think this is important to start wrapping your head around from the very start. So I am going to mention it in this video. When you are doing visual note-taking digitally, you need to think in layers. It's going to make your life so much simpler. So up in the top right, next to that black colored dot, you'll see two rectangles on top of each other. That is your layers menu, or menu. So you want to create a new layer for each new piece of information or picture that you add onto your page. The reason you need to do this is so that you can then treat each one individually if it comes to resizing, moving it around, deleting it. This is what's going to give you the most flexibility. So every time you want to add something new, come in, put it on a new layer, and just get in the habit of doing that now, because that will make things much simpler down the track. So to take your first notes, you can pinch and zoom in to the size that you are comfortable with for your handwriting. Now, I would say when you first start writing digitally on an iPad screen with a stylus, it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. You need to just kind of practice. You need to keep working at it, but slow down, write each letter clearly. If you don't like it, backspace it, write it again so that you get used to creating a font that you're comfortable with and that is legible. And you've got the grid in the background to help guide your letters. There we are. So getting used to that handwriting on the screen. So now if I wanted to put a picture to accompany this text, as we do in visual note-taking, it's a little bit of text, a little bit of pictures together, they tell the story. So if I want to have, I'm going to add a little person beside here. Backspace that so I can neaten them up a bit. Now just kind of showing off that tip. Same sort of little character that I might draw pen on paper. So I've got my text, I've got my outline of my picture. So the last thing you probably are dying to know is, how do you get color into this? So there are multiple ways to do color in Procreate, and we'll build up in complexity. But for starters, the first thing is probably just to drop fill color. So what's important here is you need to make sure that when you have drawn your shapes, they completely connect up and close, because if there is a gap, if you leave a gap here like this and that space is open, even a tiny little one, when you try to drop fill color, it's just going to spill out and fill the page. So you need to make sure that your shape is fully closed. And you can come back up here into your colors menu, pick a color that you like the look of. And then if you put your stylus on that dot, you can drag it down onto your canvas, and wherever you release it, it will fill that space. So this is a drag and drop. Now, with those hands, they're very tiny. If I think I'm going to miss that, I might zoom in a little bit more. Drag and drop. I'm going to scooch over to that other hand, drag and drop. And there we go. Our first text with an accompanying icon. Now, if I were to now want to go and do tip number 2, first things first, I'm going to come into that layers panel and I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to add a new layer. And then I'm going to start again. This will become more important down the track, but get in the habit of doing that now. It will make life so much simpler. So just to recap what we've been through. So we've talked about the size of the iPad and the kind of what you need to get started in terms of an iPad, an Apple Pencil, and the Procreate app. We've opened the app. We've seen that we can have individual pages or stacked pages. We've seen that you can choose the dimensions of that page, and you've probably got an idea now of what dimensions are going to work for you, whether that's a paper-based dimension or a widescreen dimension. So you know how to get started there. So you know how to start a new project. You know how to turn your drawing grid on, your drawing guide on, to give you the grid in the background. You know how to select a pen that you can draw and write with and select the color to draw it with. And then you know how to drop fill color into that shape and then how to add a new layer for your next piece. So I encourage you to practice these steps, go away and see just what you can and can't manage to do with just these first few tips. And we will pick up with the next set in our next tutorial. So as I mentioned before, this is the first in what will be a series of videos on teaching you how to tackle visual note-taking on your iPad so that you can ditch your notebook and pen. We've covered just some basics today to get you started. Please go away, play around with it, find out what's working and what's not working for you. If you've got particular questions after you've had a play, please let me know. I would love to know what your questions are so that I can answer them in future videos. I'm planning to do a series of these so that over time we can build up our digital visual note-taking skills together. So I would love to hear what you would like to learn from me. Please let me know in the comments below. Now, if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, you should be doing that now because there's so much good stuff here that I will be continuing to share with you each week. So that is it for today. So what are you waiting for? Go out there, go and make your mark.